Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming Invitational Qualifier and two-slot RCQ. I'm Tandy, joined by Raph Sputin. Say hi, Raph.
Hi, Raph.
And we are in the finals. Two players remain. Nick Cowden on Four Color Creativity versus TJ Radizak on Non-Bow Breach. It made the finals.
It did make the finals.
We're going to be running it through the Apex Gauntlet tomorrow starting at noon, so make sure to tune in for that. We're going to see just what the deck can do against the format's top competitors, but it looks like it's already good enough.
It's certainly doing the job today against the format's top competitors.
Yeah.
And we get to watch it go up against arguably the best deck in the format right now, which is Four Color Creativity. And so this is going to be a really great test for the Fair Breach deck.
I agree. I think that both these players, obviously some of the stronger players in the event, and both showing not only some new tech, but also just some prowess of the archetypes that they're playing. So both these players are in the feature match area and ready to go. So let's cut down there, and we'll be waiting on them to finish mulligans and such and get started. Now, on your left, you're going to have TJ Radizak. He's playing that Jeskai Breach deck with no Grinding Station, no Emery. It's just Murktide, basically, but with Underworld Breach instead of Murktide Regent. And on your right, you're going to be seeing Nick Cowden playing Four Color Creativity, and that deck is going to be relying on creativity to put Archon of Cruelty into play. And we'll see how the games play out. But we're underway. We got a Catch-Ray Triumph on the right for Cowden into Spybluff Canal for TJ. No play from either side just yet. Beseiju, the second land for Cowden, you have to imagine that's a sign of weakness, potentially no second land drop, and we'll see if TJ has a play here for turn number 2.
And just as an aside, it looks like we do have a channel prediction going on
Let's
as
go.
well.
I'm voting TJ.
Yeah, just go ahead and spend those channel points and do some predicting with us. Also, Wall Memes thought Raph was New England or doing his travel that much. It turns out much time has passed. I'm now in Virginia. But.
Well, originally from Beantown, right?
Yeah. Spent many years in the Boston area, but now in Roanoke, Virginia with Mr. Tandy here.
All right. Well, we got a turn 2 Ledger Shredder with a Bobble. That's going to give a Connive. In response to the Connive, Cowden going to go ahead and knock it off with a Bolt. So we are going to use the Bobble and then draw a card and back Cowden's way. Let's see if you can find a third mana source. He fails. We're going to pass back. laughing in the finals. Both players here already qualified for Dallas. These players playing first place, $500, second place, $300. So $200 on the line. But you have to imagine that a lot of the stress of the tournament is gone once you've qualified for the big event.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm so excited for TJ. I really enjoyed getting to know TJ over the last couple months. He's a great player, and watching him succeed has been awesome. And here he's already qualified for Dallas, which is a huge accomplishment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, qualifying for these types of large regional championship events is a great achievement in itself. And here we see both players having fun with it. We saw the same Ledger Shredder into Spell. Connive trigger with a second bolt coming out from Nick. Nick does find a third land, but it's a Dwarven Mine, and that Beseiju is not helping out the Dwarves.
Yeah, so the Dwarves are kind of on hiatus for a little while. A couple of Spell Pierce hanging out in Cowden's hand, so you can potentially stop something like Expressive Iteration or something from TJ this turn, even if the Fairy Time Raveler could hit the axe. It's important to note, though, that the Dragon Race channel is Delirious, and so now we're going to be attacking for 3 turn. We got a Surveil and a Spell Pierce targeting the Teferi Time Raveler, and we're going to go back Cowden's way and see if we can find a 4th land drop. Doesn't have it, but does have multiple Prismari commands. Can maybe main phase one of those, drawing some cards, making a treasure, decides to wait.
Yeah, I mean, here you're just seeing kind of the power of this creativity deck, even when it's not, executing its main game plan to perfection, making its land drops, something with Ren and 6 being involved. It still find enough 1 mana disruption with that full 4 Spell Pierces, full 4 Lightning Bolts to kind of stave off the early game here from TJ and keep things from getting too out of hand.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that Bold is coming back in a big way. People were on Unholy Heats forever as the primary removal spell, but turns out going to the face with Lightning Bolt's pretty good. And we're seeing it, really shine here today.
Yeah, and that's even a large part of this Jeskai Breach deck's power as well.
Right.
You'd normally see the Grinding Station version of Breach in order to make room for the Artifact combo package, max out on Unholy Heats, and maybe have 1 Lightning Bolt, maybe 1 Prismatic Ending. But now this Jeskai Breach deck gets to play, 8 removal spells instead of 5, and it's really made a big difference.
All right, Cowden here, gonna loot and make a treasure with Prismark Command, finds a land and Archon of Cruelty, likely gonna bin it. Has Transmogrify, but because of Beseiju, we're still a little away from being able to go get a dwarf, and is thumbing it to discard, which I don't love. I kind of want to get rid of this Spell Pierce. We're pretty heavy on mana from TJ's side of things, so I feel like we're just gonna be able to do that. Discards the Steam Vents, even though he doesn't have a land drop. Maybe just wanting more fetches or something. It's very curious.
Yeah, discarding that land definitely is interesting from Nick's side of things. Choosing to hold on to the Transmogrify. I kind of can't imagine that Transmogrify is going to successfully find a target anytime soon.
Well, not only is it not going to have a target, it's never going to resolve, right? TJ's just going to have bolts for days in hand. And so, unlike creativity, it only has one target, so it just gets countered pretty quickly. However, TJ going to go a little aggressive. Bolt in step. It's going to deal 3 damage. Cowden down to 11, and it's coming in hot.
Yeah, you kind of have to figure that the only way that Cowden thinks that he's going to be back into this game is if this Transmogrify somehow resolves, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of his thought process there, trying to maybe find something like a Fable of the Mirror Breaker to make a token, and then potentially fight through whatever removal spell exists with that Spell Pierce.
All right, we're back TJ's way. A couple bolts in step puts Cowden down to 8, and now we have the potential for an Underworld Breach this turn and double bolt. We'll see if Cowden wants to interact with the breach itself or just try to counter the spells out of the graveyard with just Spell Pierce. I don't think it's going to be enough. We're going to surveil one to the top. Spell Pierce is going to target it, but we can play 1 bolt and like 8 bobbles, and I don't know that Cowden's going to be able to get out of this, especially because TJ actually heads up kept a lightning bolt on top of the deck, so now actually has an out to the Transmogrified.
Yeah, absolutely. And this breach looks like we're gonna resolve it by paying for this Spell Pierce.
All right, well, we can bolt once and we can bobble a bunch.
Yeah, you may just see bobbling a bunch here and just choosing to hold up the bolt just in case there's any shenanigans.
Yep, I like it. And it's very likely that the bobble here is actually just going to find another Underworld Breach, either with the surveils of the Dragon Race Channeler or just drawing off of the 3 or 4 bobbles that are going to be cast here. I would imagine that almost every single surveil is going to put something into the graveyard, because that is 1/3 of the ability to play another bobble. And so we're just going to try to make sure that we can play it as many times as possible.
Yeah, you're also going to try to keep the Dragon's Rage Channeler delirious, I would imagine, just in case anything goes wrong there. But Nick did show a Dwarven Mine on top of the library, which is going to come into play tapped.
Yes.
So that's not going to be of any help.
All right, we're going to put Breach into the graveyard. That's a show of strength, because it's very important for TJ here to just play bobble as many times as possible. And that'll also protect him from the discard of Archon of Cruelty quite a bit too. He's going to end up with roughly 7 cards in hand at the end of the turn. So
yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing an Archon of Cruelty this game, but you never know what might happen. Surveil sees another bolt on top.
All right, well, has bolt in hand and a bolt on top. Can just bolt from the graveyard and then draw 2 more bolts, and it seems like that's probably going to be good enough to win, even through some sort of Transmogrify or whatever.
Yeah, you might not even bolt from the graveyard this turn. You might just draw a bunch of cards, especially because you have the 2 bolts in hand already. It looks like we're just shortcutting here.
Yep. So just remove 6 cards, ends up with the bobble, and we're going to draw 5.
Yep. End up with a nice 7 cards. I think 2 mana for draw 5 is pretty good. What do you think?
Well, it's 2 mana for draw 5 that before that threatened to kill the opponent. So I'd say that it's doing pretty good.
Yep.
All right. Well, TJ going to draw 5. We got Prismari Command and before the draws happen. And this is going to be a draw 2, make a treasure. And we're going to see if we can find a way out. 2 Dwarven Mines drawn. But if we had main phase, we might have had a shot. But because, you know, we didn't sequence our lands in the right way, we discarded the Steam Vents, yada yada. We're just going to end up with a tap land next turn and no dwarf.
Yep. And it looks like it is going to be the Transmogrify and the Dwarven Mine being discarded here.
Well, if you're Nick, you can't imagine that you are in good shape. But I don't think that he knows that he's dead yet. And so he may be playing and discarding in such a way that implies that he might have an extra turn. So discarding the 2 Dwarven Mines makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, I mean, Nick might not know that he's, definitively dead, but I'm pretty sure that he knows that he's dead in this spot. Your opponent's had on board, you're at 5 life, he's drawn 5 cards in your upkeep.
Might even find something like Spell Pierce to just guarantee it. Even finds creativity, but the Dormine entering tapped means that we don't even have the red mana to do it. So.
Yep, that's just unfortunate with that Boseiju being in play because we don't have the triple red to, even be able to target the token. But looks like we're going to have an untap. TJ's got a couple bolts. Going to opt for, looks like a Dash Ragavan to make one of these lethal. But this fire can actually take out both of these creatures. But those 2 bolts in hand are going to get the job done.
All right. Well, the Fire Ice is going to be cast here, and it's going to deal 1 to both. But we're just going to pick it up because I think he knows about 1 Lightning Bolt in hand, but maybe not. It's hard to remember. Anywho, TJ takes down game 1 in the finals here. Apex Gaming Invitational Qualifier and 2-slot RCQ. Both these players have locked up their ticket to Dallas in June for the regional championship, but they're playing for $500 up top to first place. They start off as a 1K, but thanks to high turnout and the generosity of Apex Gaming, we are giving away $1,500 in cash as well as $65 store credit for everyone in 9th through 16th place. So we increase the prizes a bit based on the attendance. Now, these 2 players here, no strangers to the Apex Gaming Invitational Qualifier series. They've been playing a bunch. They are both high up on the leaderboard. And right now, this might be the match that decides the player of the year.
Well, that's just some great stakes right there.
Yeah.
And these 2 players, as you said, have just been killing it all year, meeting the finals of this event. They're already qualified for Dallas. Don't have to RCQ anymore this season. That's got to feel great.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you say we go ahead and take a look at the sideboards here?
All right, tell me what they got. Cowden side.
Cowden side. He's got 3 Veil of Summer, 1 Weather the Storm, 3 copies of Nature's Claim, 2 more Boseiju Who Endures, and Iona, Shield of Emeria, 3 Aether Gust, and 2 Flusterstorm.
All right, so your Cowden side of things, you have to be aware of your role in the matchup. I think it's hard to play anything but the control role because of cards like Ragavan and DRC and Ledger Shredder. So you just want to be heavy on removal. Whenever I'm heavy on removal, I don't love being heavy on counterspells too. I would look to essentially shrink my mana leaks and spell pierces and kind of turn those into more things like maybe Veil of Summer to force through. But since they don't know each other's deck lists, there's a chance that they're just going to be sideboarding incorrectly from either side. Now, there's not a whole lot of counter magic from TJ Radadek's side because we're playing Gigantha. It's basically just spell pierce.
Right.
So even though Veil of Summer seems like it'd be pretty good against this Murktide style blue deck, it just ends up not being very good. So
yeah, I actually might consider Aether Gusts here.
Aether Gust is okay, hits those creatures early, and it can stop the big chains of the Underworld breaches.
Yeah, exactly. So that might be a slight upgrade to some of the Spell Pierce or Mana Leak type things. Mana Leak in particular doesn't seem that efficient in this type of game, so Aether Gust might be a bit of a harder answer.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a look at TJ's sideboard and take a look and see what he's going to be bringing in. We got 2 Monastery Mentor, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Flusterstorm, Spell Pierce, and 2 Engineer Explosives, 2 Wear Tear, 2 Lavinia Azorius Renegade, and a Spell Snare to go along with Gigantha as a companion. Raph, what do you like?
Well, immediately the Path to Exile leap out at me as something you definitely want just in case those... it can stop a creativity. It can, if it's an out, if Archon does hit the table. Engineer Explosives, for similar reasons, blows up everything on 0, so that's kind of a counter to creativity as well. You might also consider something like Spell Snare, especially on the draw, because Ren and 6 coming down on turn 2 might threaten to just end the game pretty immediately. And you could consider Flusterstorm as well. If you try to get into some of these counter wars, but I'm not sure that that's the role that TJ wants to take in this matchup.
All right, looks like TJ took a mulligan. Nick's going to keep his. Nick's going to be on the play here for game number 2. Looks like he has 2 land and a Ren and 6 on the second turn. Could be enough to get a stranglehold on the early game. Not only is the minus powerful against things like Ragavan and early DRCs without Delirium, but it also helps him hit his land drop, so he's able to basically play Magic as normal, only starting on 2 lands. TJ going to 5. Looks like he has Flusterstorm, but that's not a great answer to the Ren and 6. We'll need a Spell Pierce or something similar to handle it, or it's just going to wreak havoc on him in the early game, I think.
Yeah, it looks like you do see Aether Gust and Spell Pierce there for Nick as well. But that Nick's mana development does look a little bit awkward. He's going to have that Wrenn and 6 to hopefully pull him out of it.
So here's going to be an interesting sequence from TJ, and I'm sure he has done this before. This is something that I picked up pretty quickly when I was playing these Ragavan decks against Wrenn and 6, is that if you have a Ragavan and another 1-drop that dies to Wrenn 6, you want to play the other 1-drop that dies to Wrenn first, so that they're incentivized to go Wrenn minus, and then you can dash Ragavan and kill the Wrenn before it picks up a land.
Yeah, we'll see if that is something that TJ opts to do here. That could be devastating, especially if Nick doesn't happen to find another land.
Right. All right, draw for turn. Immediately finds another land. So the scariness of the Wrenn play, potentially getting punished, is gone. And now we're going to Wrenn minus, and it's going to be a clean trade. And then TJ is essentially going to have to burn his entire second turn to kill the Wrenn and 6. But then Cowden just has turn 3 with 3 untapped mana, and things can go wrong with things like Fable the Mirror Breaker, Prismari Command, Counterspell plus removal. Like, it's just all bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick's looking pretty good here, especially that second Wooded Foothill is going to be able to find some blue mana, probably in the form of a Steam Vents, to turn on that Spell Pierce. But it does look like he does have a Fable of the Mirror Breaker as well. He might just choose to be proactive and just slam that Fable.
I think that's a great play if he has it. So we're going to dash Ragavan. We're going to take out the Wrenn and 6. So we have essentially undone a little bit of the mulligan by being able to knock off the Wrenn and 6 for cheap. But Fable the Mirror Breaker here off of Shockland is going to give not only Crowden some board presence, but he's going to be able to turn some of those more reactive elements into maybe something more proactive, so he can turn the game in his favor and close it before TJ catches up on cards.
Yeah, it looks like TJ does have a Bolt as well as this Ragavan, but is missing that next land to be able to potentially dash the Ragavan and play the Bolt. So the question becomes, if you are TJ, what are you going for? And it looks like it's Consider, finds a land.
All right, finds the lands, and we'll see what he wants to deploy here as well. Could just cast a Ragavan. Has a Bolt for the token so that it can't attack and get a treasure. Has blue mana open, it looks like, for Flusterstorm, but chooses not to deploy Ragavan. So I doubt Nick's going to fall for it. We're just going to keep in our land drops, just kind of cycling, playing reactive. I think running into the Flusterstorm is not going to happen.
Yeah, especially with that Wrenn and 6 being picked up. You got to imagine that's probably going to be the play for turn here.
Yeah, not only is the Wrenn and 6 a nice pickup, well, he can Ether Gust as well. Didn't play around Spell Pierce, important to note, so could have gotten punished. Had the fetch land to play, would have been maybe a little safer to play that, but had Spell Pierce backup to protect, so no harm, no foul.
Right, and it's also important that TJ doesn't had a Flusterstorm there and not Spell Pierce, because now the 1 mana interaction might not be necessarily on Nick's radar, which means he might be incentivized to go for an earlier creativity than he would otherwise, and might run into Flusterstorm where he wouldn't have run into Spell Pierce.
Right, so it looks like we picked up DRC. We have instant land creature in the graveyard, so not quite Delirious. We also have Expressive Iteration in hand, which is a sorcery which can turn it on, as well as the Travail, but the Spell Pierce should take care of the Expressive Iteration. It's going to allow the DRC to resolve first before giving away that information. Spell Pierce is going to get milled over, and he lets it resolve. He wants to force through his creativity next turn, and he can do that exactly. Yeah, what a nice play from Nick, and it looks like he's going to be in prime position to win this game thanks to that heads-up play. He's going to hold the Spell Pierce for next turn, and we'll see if TJ has any recourse.
Well, the thing is, the Flusterstorm actually does beat the Spell Pierce.
Wow.
So, because you're creating 2 separate spells.
Okay.
So that even if Nick does go for the creativity here, it's not going to be good enough.
Wow, so TJ with the Flusterstorm tech out of the sideboard might be enough to protect him here. We'll see if Cowden has a Veil of Summer off the top or something else equally backbreaking to protect himself. The Flusterstorm should be good for stalling for a turn, though. And you have to imagine maybe Nick's punching himself for not using that Spell Pierce on the Expressive Iteration, or will be after this turn's done.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. We're going to go ahead and transform that Fable of the Mirror Breaker into Reflection of Kiki Jiki, which by itself threatens to, maybe just run away with this game a little bit on its own. But we'll see what happens. Wrenn and 6 going to tick up, grab that Wooded Foothills back.
Yep, has another Fable, can just play it slow and go for that instead, but looks like we're going to go ahead and main phase and see if we can do the deed.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Nick, you have to think that creativity plus spell pierce is going to be good enough against someone with 1 open mana, but that Flusterstorm just does so much work.
Yeah, the reprint of Flusterstorm into Modern was honestly one of my favorite reprints from Modern Horizons 1. I loved Flusterstorm in Legacy. I thought it was a great spell, like a great showcase of the storm mechanic, right? A defensive way to use the storm mechanic. And it's been an awesome addition to the format, really checking a lot of these combo-centric decks with instant sorceries being the bulk of their spell base. And here we're seeing it win through Spell Pierce, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, there's no other card in the format that would have gone through Spell Pierce.
Yeah, not a single card, I don't think. All right, well, Nick going to be punching himself for this one, but that Flusterstorm is going to work. And we have a DRC trigger as well, so we'll see if we remember it. Okay.
Looks like no.
All right. I think did he just like pick up the token or something and then put it back?
I think maybe we
shortcutted.
Yeah,
it's fine. Okay, so no follow-up for Cowden. Might have something like Bolt and attack, but decides to not. Has Spell Pierce and Aether Gust in hand.
Yep, Spell Pierce, Aether Gust, and I think that last one is Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
All right, back TJ's way. Have we found a way to get back into this game? That Flusterstorm was backbreaking, but TJ started on 5 cards, undoing a lot of that with the Dash Ragavan to kill the Wrenn and 6 and multiple expressive iterations after being really low on resources.
Sees a lightning bolt on top. You got to figure that one's going to stay there.
Yep, and then depending on if he hits a land or not, we can sequence in such a way, but decides to put it in the graveyard. Maybe looking for more ways to protect themselves from a follow-up next turn with another creativity or transmog.
Yep, you do see Nick there with the Aether Gust at the ready as well.
Only 1 mana up, though.
Yep.
All right, we'll see what TJ wants to reveal and put in hand. We have a land and another expressive iteration, so we're going to go iteration to hand more than likely, but might want the land, honestly.
Yeah, it might just be setting up for a big Underworld Breach turn here, in which case you're going to want the mana.
Right. DRC has to attack, but we will get a Surveil first. Lightning Bolt on top, so we can draw that and finish off the Wrenn and 6 maybe, or protect ourselves from Transmog. Top card is a land for Cowden.
Yep, that was a Scalding Tarn there.
All right, looks like we're going to go face. Didn't see any indication that the Wrenn and 6 was going to take damage.
Yeah, so. Upstairs.
So with Underworld Breach in hand, next turn, maybe it's triple bolt for the win, depending on the situation. Now we're going to draw a card for turn. It's going to be a bolt. And Cowden might be defeated here at the hands of a single Flusterstorm.
Yeah, I mean, that Aether Gust is going to keep that Underworld Breach off of the table, at least for a turn.
Yeah, but it is only 1 turn. So.
Yeah. I think we're going to see the Fable of the Mirror Breaker here as well.
Okay.
And I think what we're actually going to see happen here is that Reflection is probably going to try to copy the Goblin token and try to get a second blue mana onto the table that won't cost 3 life. So that was Spell Pierce plus Aether Gust is up.
Oh, good call. The hasted Goblin, the Reflection plus Fable combination, it's 2 cards, but really 1 card in the same, and both halves of the card working really well together.
It looks like Nick's just content to attack for 2 here, not necessarily wanting to expend more resources on his own turn.
Yeah. Okay. So can we check the list and see if there's a second Steam Vents?
Sure.
All right.
Go ahead and check that real quick.
All right. End of turn. TJ Radizak going to throw a Lightning Bolt at face. That's going to put Countdown down to 9 if it resolves.
He does have 2 Steam Vents.
Okay. So it does have 2 Steam Vents, but fetching to shock, right, doesn't really do it in this scenario because the Lightning Bolts are chunking you. Now, Aether Gust for that Underworld Breach will buy a turn, and that 1 turn might be enough. We're going to present a lot of damage next turn with not only the Goblin tokens, but there's going to be, a Fable copy and then the token itself coming back. So
yeah, and here we see kind of the danger of not making that play for the second blue mana. Because if Nick had access to a second blue mana, he could have very freely spell pierced that lightning bolt,
Right.
kept himself at a higher life total, and then had the Aether Gust for the follow-up. But now he's just going to have the Aether Gust, but he's at a lower life total. This also is an engineered explosives that was drawn for TJ, and that's probably just going to wrap things up as well.
All right.
And stops any kind of creativity. But we'll see what happens.
Well, the backside of Fable does cost 3, so if creativity is drawn, we can do it for 1, targeting Fable, and that plays around the engineer explosives. We're going to have Aether Gust targeting the Underworld Breach, and that's going to go back on top to threaten again next turn, more than likely. And then Engineering Explosives for 0 is going to allow Surveil. That's going to stay on top, obviously. And then we're going to cast Ragavan, probably. Seems very reasonable to play, even with a minus Ren that, if the game elongates, you don't want Ren to ultimate. So,
Yep. Probably going to see Nick go and find it. Nope. All right. Just going to leave that fetch up. So as to not potentially take lethal from the Ragavan.
All right, we're going to loot 2. We're going to
Couple
discard
lands.
a couple lands. Draw 2. All right, very important draw here, that Mana Leak. We can go Mana Leak plus Spell Pierce, and that should be enough to buy an extra turn. The tokens from Cowden are pretty scary, but we might just not care too much about it.
Well, that Dragon Trace Channeler is just lethal, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
well,
think Nick's going to be able to answer everything here.
Good call. Yeah, that's true. All right, and we're going to pack it in. Nick Cowden defeated by TJ Radizak, your champion. Jeskai Breach, no combo, no necessary.
No combo, no problem.
No combo, no problem. And guess what? He is going to Dallas.
He absolutely
Regional
is.
championship qualifier. His opponent also going to Dallas. But $500 to the man himself, TJ Radizak. We'll try to get him into the booth, see if we can get a little I love to talk about the deck. I love to pick its brain. This event has been a ton of fun to cover, and it was a pretty awesome finish. We watched this archetype all day. We talked about it all day, and it ultimately won the tournament. I said I thought Ryan was going to win the tournament. Turns out TJ won the tournament, and they worked together, and they played the same list. So I was half right.
Well, you gotta always love folks innovating, coming up with great decks, and then just coming up and absolutely, putting their money where their mouth is and making a deep run in the tournament. So congratulations to TJ and Brian for testing with him.
Yeah. Do you want to go get him for me? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have Raph go get our man TJ. I'm gonna come talk to him for a second. We're gonna pick his brain about the old Breach no combo deck, because damn if this ain't gonna be the new hotness. Just won this event. This is one of the first weeks that it's really been around as an archetype. It started on Magic Online essentially last week, and it's already taken down modern events. We've seen Breach be a deck in the format before, but it's almost always been combo oriented, and it'll be interesting to see if we can get any insight from the man, the myth, the legend himself. TJ, have a seat. Let's come back to the booth, and I'm going to ask you some questions. First of all, congratulations, sir.
Thanks.
Excellent win, well navigated. I was watching most of your matches all day when you were on camera. I actually called Ryan to win the event when I saw him in round 1 playing the deck, and it looked fluid.
Yeah.
And then when I knew that you were playing the same list, and then you winning is no surprise. No surprise. Did you feel today like you were playing the best deck in the room?
It felt pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Every time, anytime I played a Breach past turn 4,
Yeah.
it felt just absurd.
Breach is one of those cards, right, where it pairs so well with everything, right? Because it's just a generically powerful card. It lets you play anything from the graveyard. Mishra's Bauble specifically lets you just turn it into, pseudo treasure cruise or dig through time or whatever you want to compare it to. But then if you have 5 or 6 mana, you just throw lightning bolts at the face, and that's the same as Grape Shot or combo killing,
Yeah, there was a couple turns against him where I was just like, I don't even think I care if he creativity is, because I'm going to untap and bolt him 4
Yeah, you want him
times.
to tap out,
Yeah.
right? Now, there was a really sick spot where he could have spell pierced your expressive iteration. You wouldn't have had the land up for the Flusterstorm, but he was trying to force through the creativity or with next turn with the spell pierce, and Flusterstorm just broke his back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so well played, well navigated, awesome deck. We're gonna be doing probably your list tomorrow when we do the Apex Gauntlet. We're going to be running it through the gauntlet. You know, you already ran it through the true gauntlet,
Yeah,
but
true.
me and
Yeah.
my buddy Ellen are going to be playing it tomorrow.
Very
But
cool.
congratulations once again.
Yeah.
Congrats on
Thanks.
qualifying for Dallas, man. That's a really great
Yeah.
accomplishment.
For sure.
So thanks for
sure.
coming out. That's going to do it, folks. You know, thanks to Elliot Raff. He's going to be back tomorrow. You can swing in the camera and say bye if you want to. TJ, thanks for coming into the booth, man, and great job, bud.